So since we have met last time, we have started an informational campaign going out and talking with people about Propositions I and N. We started with the full staff during a CSD day. That was intended to be kind of a first run to get a little feedback, and we certainly got a little feedback. So we went back and blew the whole presentation up and rearranged everything. But very good feedback from the teachers and staff, and pointed out some really valuable information. Our speech and debate teacher had some feedback for me, so that's always nice. So since that time, we have been out and we've spoken with 2 community groups. We have more. We have one scheduled tomorrow and 2 or 3 next week, I believe, as well. So throughout this presentation, we'll also list some dates that we have some open community forums scheduled for people to come in and get information and ask questions. So I'll tell you, the first 2 presentations have gone well. We've enjoyed going out and speaking with people. We've got lots of good questions about the projects and a lot of serious interest in trying to understand it, and so that's what we asked for. So I thought tonight I would just kind of share the presentation. I may not give you the presentation fully, but we'll kind of talk through it, but I'm sure I'll probably fall into that some. So first of all, just a little summary of what it is we're asking. So we're kind of starting with the end of the story in the beginning, just so you have some context as we talk through this. On the April 4th ballot, we will have 2 propositions. Proposition I is an 85-cent tax levy increase. So a levy increase is an ongoing tax that will be used to fund ongoing expenses. And we'll talk about the reason for Proposition I and what that will be used for throughout this presentation. Also on the ballot is Proposition N, which is a no tax increase bond issue. Bond issue is used for one-time expenses for capital projects and infrastructure, kind of building stuff is an easier way to think of it. We will have the ability to access $10 million in bond funds. And again, we'll go through the uses of those funds and the reasons that we're asking. But I wanted to start off the presentation with this, again, just so you have some context for what we are asking. So as you guys know, over the last few years, the board has gone through a full process of monitoring the district and identifying needs and looking at solutions. And so we summarize the needs into kind of these 3 big rocks right here. And the 3 big rocks of needs that we need to address are salaries, and that's all across the board. That's professional staff, teachers, support staff, and substitutes. We are seeing a need to address increased operational costs. As you know, we've seen the cost of supplies and services increase 30% over the last 2 years. You know that we have approved a budget that is a deficit spend. The projections are that we have deficit spend budgets coming the next 2 years, and that's not something that's sustainable. We've been able to weather the storm these last few years with 2 different ways, and that's one-time federal funds from the Elementary and Secondary Schools Emergency Relief Fund, which allowed us to fill some of those gaps and not and still be able to maintain normal operations. And then also, due to being fiscally responsible over the years, we have a reserve of funds that we are dipping into. But again, the deficit spend budgets that we are building over the next few years, the one-time funds are gone, and the reserves will be gone soon unless we address those increased operational costs. And then the 3rd big rock that we have identified that we need to address are some quickly coming large ticket maintenance needs that need to be addressed sooner rather than later, so that they do not turn into emergency situations. So those 3 big rocks, try to have people kind of keep those in their mind as we talk about kind of continuing in this process. So first of all, on the salary side, have some information up here about our certified staff, and I would direct you to that bottom box down there just for a little bit of context. So the state of Missouri is trying to address teacher pay all across the state. There's a Blue Ribbon Commission that's looking at that. But what we are seeing is increased competition between schools for eligible teachers to fill our open teaching positions. We have been fortunate in Rolla over the years in that we have been a destination district in this area of the state. We've been able to attract those first-year candidates coming out of college. And we've also been able to recruit experienced teachers from the districts that are around us who can come to Rolla, teach in a wonderful environment, and also get a bit of a pay raise. What we're seeing is that some of our advantages in those areas are starting to slip, and we are in greater competition now. A couple of things. The state did give a salary supplement to any districts whose beginning pay was less than $38,000. Ours is $38,500, so we did not receive those funds. But what it has done, it has leveled the playing field between us and smaller districts around us, especially for those first-year beginning teachers. What we're also seeing is the proliferation of four-day school week districts, and we are slowly starting to be surrounded by some of them. They are popping up more and more. What we are seeing is that some teachers are making a work-life balance decision for similar pay, working 4 days a week versus working 5 days a week. And one of the things that I communicate in all of our public meetings that we go to is that we are committed to a 5-day school week district. And that's not contingent on these issues passing or not passing. That has nothing to do with it. We are committed to being a 5-day-a-week school district. But the competition for teachers is real with those 4-day school weeks. The reason districts are doing the 4-day school weeks is to be able to recruit and retain staff in their districts because they cannot fill their teaching positions. So it is strictly a recruiting tool, and it is working. Teachers are choosing to be there. Our teachers have given a lot, and one of the things I stress is that in public education and Rolla Public Schools, we have said many, many times, you've heard me say this over and over again, we are a people business. The programs in our school district are wonderful. They provide wonderful experiences for our kids. But what makes a school district special is having high-quality people working with kids in the classroom on a daily basis. I know when we all think about our school experience and what made it special, we think back to those teachers that made a difference with us, those coaches that made a difference with us, and the connections that kids make with our staff. So if we are to continue to be able to recruit the best and brightest teachers in the state of Missouri to us, we do need to address our salary schedule. We are losing the competitive advantage we had, and we are falling behind. As you know, we have not been able to address raises on our salary schedule for the last couple of years, and it appears that in our current situation, due to the increased operational expenses that we're seeing, it would be very difficult to be able to add expenses to our salary schedule moving forward. So that is a big rock and a big challenge that we have to face. So that's on the certified side. On the support staff side, you see some statistics up there for us. 325 positions within the district. Our current starting pay at the lowest salary schedule is $12.25 an hour. And of those 325 support staff employees, 200 are on that lowest salary schedule. What we are finding is that we are falling behind in competition for the regional workforce for these positions. And these are maintenance members, custodians, secretaries, instructional aides that are working directly with students, all of those support bus drivers, all of those positions that are essential in our buildings being able to function efficiently in our district to operate. So 200 of those 325 are on that lowest salary schedule. What we're seeing is this vicious cycle. One, we have a hard time recruiting people into those positions because of the pay. But then when we are able to recruit them, they leave in a short amount of time to accept a higher paying position, which means we start the cycle all over again, which means we are unable to build any consistency and any long-range effectiveness in those positions. As you can see, we've had 110 hires or changes within our support staff just since July 1st of this year. Now, we have not been able to fill all of our support staff positions. We have 20 to 25 open positions throughout the school year. There is low unemployment in the community, so it is competition for those workers to get them to come to Rolla Public Schools. We believe we offer a wonderful environment to work in. We offer good benefits, but people are looking for that maximum take-home pay, and our current salary schedule does not allow us to be able to compete effectively. So, you identify challenges that you have as a district. You identified the need to fund things. What's the first thing that we did? We looked at, could we reallocate funds within our current budget in order to meet those needs? But as we started looking there, obviously this is what we found. 80% of our funds are currently being spent on people. Again, we are a people business. We have 20% of our funds being covered on services and supplies. And frankly, a lot of those services and supplies are essential items that we need to run schools. So we're talking about food, gas, paper products, those things that we need. So when you start looking at reallocating funds, you're talking about making cuts. What you're talking about is cutting people to make any significant difference. There is the ability to make enough cuts to fund those three big rocks that we talked about earlier from just the service and supplies does not exist. That is not something we can do. And as we looked at this, I do not believe that we can cut our way to excellence. I do not believe that we can cut our way to maintaining what this community expects of our school district. So getting there strictly through cuts is not going to be possible. Although we always look for efficiencies, and I will tell you, I do not believe we are an overstaffed school district. I do not believe we are a bloated school district. I believe we have been running very efficiently, and there isn't a lot extra there. So if cuts aren't enough, you start looking for different funding options. And here's a quick synopsis of funding of school districts in Missouri. So first of all, three big buckets: state funds, federal funds, and local tax funds. And you can see the chart on the right indicates the current percentages of our revenues within the Rolla School District. So for the state foundation formula, it has been fully funded for the past 3 years, but it has been flat in the SAT and what's coming in. There are no increases currently proposed to state funding. And while we're very grateful from what we get from the state, the ability to have increased funds to meet the needs of those three big rocks is not coming, and we cannot rely on the state funding at this point to meet that need. For the federal funds, as I mentioned before, we did receive elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds. We use those funds in a couple different ways. As you know, anytime you have federal funds, you have well-defined allowable uses and also strings attached to those funds. So one of the allowable uses was to address air quality within our buildings, within our existing buildings. So we did HVAC work in two of our buildings, two of our high school and Truman, in the existing parts of the building. Frankly, we also used some of those funds to maintain our operations over the last 3 years when we've seen expenses shoot through the roof at times. Paper products, food, gas, all of those things that it takes to run school. But I want to reemphasize, those ESSER funds were one-time federal funds. We would not be able to apply those to an increased salary schedule that comes with year after year ongoing expenses. Those funds would not be able to fund that for the long term. So what does that leave us? It leaves us then looking at local tax funds. And I will tell you, the schools in the state of Missouri are relying more and more on their local taxpayers to fund the educational system. And there are a couple different ways that those can come in. One is a school tax levy increase, which we will discuss a little bit more, and the second is through bond issue to build buildings and do infrastructure payments. I will tell you, in looking at all the options, that's what's led us to tonight presenting propositions I and N to you, in that finding funding sources to solve those three problems will fall to us asking our local taxpayers for help and assistance. So, what are we asking? Well, Proposition I, as I said earlier, is an 85-cent tax levy increase, and we'll talk about the impact to taxpayers here on a slide coming up. What will we do with those funds? Well, our proposal is to increase the teacher starting salary from the current level of $38,500 to $40,086. That is a 4% raise, and that 4% will be applied all through the entire salary schedule. We believe this is a healthy bump that will allow us to continue to attract teachers, but we don't believe it's an exorbitant amount. We would like to do more, but the cost of doing more is simply very high. We're trying to do all that we can. On the support staff side, I mentioned that our lowest salary schedule begins at $12.25 per hour. We're proposing to raise that by $3 an hour to bring that first starting salary to $15.25 an hour. The additional $3 per hour will be applied across all salary schedule steps. Again, our hope is to be competitive for the local workforce to be able to attract and retain. I will say both of those things. It's not enough for us just to attract people. We want to attract and retain them, and once we get them here, have them stay and finish their career at Rolla Public Schools. So our hope is that for support staff, that this pay schedule will make us competitive and allow us to do so. We are also seeing over the last 3 years a shortage of substitute teachers. It is very difficult, if you talk with building principals, to find enough subs to cover even basic amounts of absences for our teachers who are gone for sickness or professional development. Districts around us have upped their hourly pay for substitute teachers, and we are seeing local folks being willing to drive short distances to earn more money for substitute teachers. We believe we need to address our substitute salary schedule. Currently, it's at $12 per hour. We're looking to raise that up and match the $15.25 per hour for the support staff. Also, Proposition I, again, is an ongoing tax levy, and that will help meet the long-term operating fund needs that we talked about, the increased costs that we've seen, and to help us address the deficit spend model that we're currently running under. So the immediate impact is that 78% of Proposition I funds will go directly and immediately to salary increases. And if you look back at our spending ratio, that matches the current ratio of 80% of our funds going to people and the rest going to services and supplies. So the funds being asked for in Proposition I fall within those bounds and I think are fair. Now, obviously, this is a big ask, and this is not free, so there is certainly a tax impact to the taxpayer in order to do this. So we certainly want to acknowledge that. So what we have here, we have 3 home appraised values, and as we talked with the Phelps County assessor, we found that the average residential house price in Phelps County is at around $130,000. So we gave you the cost of the $130,000 house and then went on $50,000 bands around each end of it. So you can see for each of those values, the appraised value. Now, I will tell you, we do tell people to look at their tax bill to find their appraised value of their home. Do not use the Zillow value. That is not the value that you're going to pay taxes on. You want to make sure that you find it at what the assessor has valued your home at. You can see we have a column there for the annual cost. So for the average home in Phelps County, we're talking about a $209.95 added annual cost from this Proposition I. Some people pay it monthly, so we've broken it down monthly. Now, obviously, there are houses that are in every range. So on our website, we have listed the formula that you can use to calculate the increased tax on your assessed value of your property. And Gina has it in all the literature that we hand out. She's going to talk to you here in just a moment about where you can find information on our website. But that formula is listed on the website if you would like to do the calculations. What we've said all along, we want people to have the accurate numbers for what this is going to cost because we want them to make an informed decision about their support on this issue or not, but to make it on accurate numbers and accurate representation of the cost. Now, what will this do to our tax levy in a comparative sense? So our current operating levy is at $3.58 per $100 of assessed valuation. If this 85-cent levy passes, it will increase our levy to $4.43 per $100 of assessed value. So where does that fit on area school districts and districts close by of similar size to us? Newburgh's current operating levy is $4.19. St. James is slightly higher than us right now at $3.65. St. James is asking for a 65-cent tax levy to be used for the same purpose of addressing salaries within their district. Their campaign is directly related to competing with Rolla. So they are comparing with us, and everyone is trying to address each other. So if theirs passes, they will be at $4.30. You can see Lebanon nearby at $4.49, Jeff City at $4.86. So this levy is an increase, but it will not put us at the very top. It does not put us out of range of what is being seen, at least within this area. Certainly statewide, that is nowhere near the top statewide, but we do believe it puts us in a range of competitiveness with other districts around us and ones that we are competing with teachers. A little bit about our history of levies. The last levy increase in Rolla was in 2015. That was a 25-cent levy increase, and that was used to introduce early childhood education into the district. Previous to that, the last levy increase was in 2001, and that levy was put in place to address teacher salaries similar to this one. So we believe that we've been fiscally responsible over the years, but we currently find ourselves where we are needing some assistance if we're going to maintain operations as we currently have them. So that's Proposition I. Again, I mentioned earlier we have 2 propositions on the ballot, and I did not ask Dr. Dare if he's going to come up and speak to this, but I will ask him now. Dr. Dare, would you like to address Proposition N?
Thank you, Mr. Hounsom. Shifting gears a little bit. So as Mr. Hounsom mentioned, Proposition N is a bond initiative. And so again, the difference between the levy and the bond are one-time funds that we will use to address facility needs, and as opposed to an ongoing levy for the ongoing expenses such as salaries. So a little bit of background and kind of want to take you through the whole picture and then possibly dispel some rumors or things floating around. But first question that we've been asked often is, why 10 million? And quite honestly, our goal was to limit the tax impact, at least in the immediate. Make no mistake, this is a tax increase. There will be no immediate increase to the tax rate, but it is borrowing money. So it adds debt to the end of that and extends the taxes out. So it's not free money. We understand that. We understand that this is an ask of our community. We believe that we have been very conservative in our approach and fiscally responsible, which has allowed us the freedom within our current structure to borrow an additional 10 million. So that is where that number comes from. We have needs that were identified in the 2018 long-range facility plan. That's where all of these come from. These are needs that were identified by committee members, committees involving community members, faculty, and staff in each of the buildings. So I'll go through the projects a little bit, and then we'll circle back around. First, always first and involved in all of our discussions are security and safety measures. The funds utilized in Proposition N would be used directly to address our exterior entrances. There's roughly 175 exterior doors on our school buildings, and that's a lot. And so a combination of replacement doors for some of the older mechanisms, electronic access, and then alarm systems. A lot of the things we see in the media are about propped doors. And so putting a system in place that would notify us if a door is propped open and help us prevent that from happening either on purpose or by accident. The second is ongoing HVAC repair and replacement issues. We've talked some before about our middle school. Roughly 80 rooftop units that date back 20 plus years at the end of their life that we need to address on the whole. As Mr. Hounsom mentioned, we did use some of the ESSER funds to address air quality at the existing part of the high school in Truman. Those funds for HVAC were not allowed to be used for new construction. So those were specifically used in the existing parts of the building, specifically at the high school in the current gym that will become the auditorium and the surrounding classroom areas there, and at Truman in the existing office and surrounding classrooms and the cafeteria. So that's where those funds were utilized and are being utilized. Energy efficient lighting and installation. So we are in a fair majority of the district, about 2 generations behind in our lighting systems, looking to go to LED lights, not only for quality, but also for energy efficiency. We did have a high-level energy audit done by a third party that suggests that we would have annual savings of around $150,000 just in energy cost. When you combine the reduced maintenance, labor, and materials from the energy replacements and the HVAC work, we believe the savings annually will exceed that. But that is a big piece of this project. And that would be district-wide, LED lights district-wide. And then last but certainly not least, we do have this statement about remodeling and renovating district spaces. And again, these are all things that are outlined within the facility plan. The example we've been using is our transportation facility and the fuel tanks there. They are at the end of their life. We're going to have to do something to address those soon. And what that is, we will need to explore a little further. But those are important pieces and ongoing things that we need to address that are a little beyond our ability to handle within our normal operating budget. In saying that, I want to make clear that Proposition N will not be used for the current construction projects that were put in place from R31-2020. That would be unethical and immoral at worst and illegal at best. If we were going to do that, we would have to call that out within the language of the bond. And if you look at the bond language, you will not see that. The ballot language, you will not see that. So none of these funds would be used for the current construction projects. Those funds are secured, and we're on a good path there. Also want to call out that, again, just a reminder, this is not an increase to the tax bill in the immediate. It is an extension of the debt. As such, there would be some assumption that this might be a decrease to the tax bill, and that's not true either. Again, this debt would be added to the end of the debt, and so if it doesn't pass, there would be no reduction in the tax levy because we would still continue to pay our current debt, which is what we use to set that bond amount for. And I believe.
You're doing great. Just keep going.
So again, just a little summary. Proposition I, Proposition N. Proposition I being the levy, ongoing expenses, salary, benefits, and operational costs. I think we were all hoping to see those operational costs come down, but quite honestly, that's just not what we're seeing. And then Proposition N with the bond to address some of our facility needs that are beyond our annual budget to maintain and address. Okay. One thing I might mention and call attention to you on this, Proposition I is a levy, requires a simple majority, 50% plus one. Proposition N is a bond, requires the, quote, super majority, which is a 4/7, 57.14% and some change, I believe. So a little different voting requirements on these to pass, but two separate issues. One is not dependent on the other, okay? Two separate issues. And I believe Gina's going to take over from here.
Hi, everyone. Always happy to share some information on where you can find all of this. Of course, we have it all posted on our website. There's a whole page built on props I and N, and I think I can click on it and you can see it, maybe. I don't know. Nancy, you may have to do it. Much of the information in this presentation is housed on that web page. But of course, if you have questions, please give us a call. I've received several calls in the last couple of days, people asking questions, getting clarifying information. We understand not everyone has access to the internet, so you are welcome to call our offices at any time, and we will happily visit with you. I also have some handouts and some other literature that carries much of the same information, and happy to deliver those to you as well. I think that's good. Can pop back now. Yeah. Thanks, Nancy. We do have some upcoming community forums, as Mr. Hounsom mentioned. The first one will be at the lecture hall at the Raleigh High School, March 13th at 5:30 p.m. It's open to the public. Anyone is welcome. Of course, may be limited due to space, but that lecture hall is good size, so come on over and ask your questions, and Mr. Hounsom will be running through this same presentation. We'll be doing the presentation again on March 21st, right here in this room at noon. So you are welcome to share that information and come visit with us. And then finally, the campaign committee has been formed. It's being led by Jeannie Cavender and Linda Giger, and they are doing a great job. If you have an interest in participating in campaign efforts, you can reach out to them. They're also on Facebook and Twitter, and you'll be seeing some signs going up around the community with their efforts and hard work. So appreciate them and all they do.
So, as I said, we are a people business, and the tagline that we have, Propositions I and N, are all in for Rolla. And someone pointed out the other day that, that's not all in for Rolla Public Schools, but it's all in for Rolla because, we understand that the impact the school district has on this community, and we know that families and businesses look at the quality of the schools when they make a decision to move to this community. So we know our responsibility to provide an excellent educational environment for families and to be able to attract families to our community and keep them here. So we take that seriously. We believe we've been fiscally responsible with the tax levy that we've had the last several years, but we do find ourselves in a current situation now where we believe it's time to ask the community for assistance. And we do understand what a big ask this is. We acknowledge that. I told a group the other day that, I did introduce myself, told that I'm retiring at the end of this year after 30 years in the school district. And in my bucket list of things to do for my last few months when I made this decision was not to go around and ask people for higher taxes during my last couple months on the job. But from the work that this board has done in reviewing the district and reviewing our needs, we do see some major challenges ahead for us. And that's We're asking this because we believe it's a serious issue and something that we need to address moving forward. So during the presentation, sometimes we may make a joke about following the news. None of these funds will be used for roundabouts or lane closures of any roads around Rolla Public Schools, so we do want to make that point. We think it's for worthy causes and things that will help strengthen our school district and help us maintain the tradition of excellence that we have. So that's kind of a summation of the presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions, feedback about the presentation, comments. Again, we have one tomorrow at lunch with Rotary, and then some more next week that will be out speaking. So be happy to take any questions.
Any comments or questions for Mr. Hounsom or Dr. Dare or Mrs. Zervas?
I just think it might be important too to mention that we're, 50th in teacher pay and 49th in education funding from the state level, so
I
it's
do have that in my
reliant on-
notes, and I was doing this by memory and
Oh,
didn't
no,
have
you're
that
fine.
note.
I just
No,
think that's
good.
important for
Yes.
everyone to know that
Yeah.
we're relying on local since we are.
Yes. No, that's a good point.
Yeah. So, Mr. Hounds, Dr. Dare, whoever else helped, I appreciate the additional facts that are shown in the presentation that help people understand. And for example, that we've hired 110 of 325 non-certified staff this year. And so that just begs to the issue of trying to hire and maintain or keep qualified people. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
trying to express the magnitude of trying to fill those positions. And, and those open spots are being filled by, teachers who are cleaning their own rooms and doing things. And we don't want to operate that in the long term. It puts a lot of stress on everyone and just adds to the overall workload of everyone. So we want everyone to do their fair share and do their fair part, but we need to be able to get people in those positions to be able to do so.
But what I'm trying to point out is I appreciate all that work, because those facts are just not there.
Right.
Yeah.
No, those are helpful.
Okay.
Anything else?
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A great presentation.